Okay, Assalamualaikum and selamat sejahtera. So now let's discuss about the next subtopic. So this subtopic is about light independent reaction or Kelvin cycle. Okay, so first of all, we look at what is light independent reaction. So this process also known as Kelvin cycle. Okay, and then the location of this process, it will occurs in the stroma of chloroplast. Okay, so in this process, actually carbon will enter Kelvin cycle in form of carbon dioxide and leave in the form of sugar. Okay, so means that as a conclusion, actually from this process, okay, sugar will be produced. Okay, so carbon dioxide is reduced into an organic molecule. So the molecule we call as glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So from this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, it will be used to produce another sugar. For example, it will produce glucose and also starch. Okay, so the energy source for this process is ATP and the reducing agent is NADPH. Okay, so kalau kita refresh balik, where does ATP and also NADPH is comes from? Okay, so both of these will comes from the process of light dependent reaction yang kita dah discuss sebelum ini. Okay, so for Kelvin cycle, it will consist of 3 stages. The first one we call as carbon fixation, second reduction, and then the third one regeneration of ribulose bisphosphate or RUBP. Okay, so this is the overall process of Kelvin cycle. So if you look at this diagram, okay, so awak mesti kena ingat Kelvin cycle. Okay, it will involve carbon dioxide. Okay, so kita nak source of carbon tu datangnya daripada carbon dioxide. So there are 3 carbon dioxide here which enter one by one into this cycle. Okay, and then so this one actually phase 1 yang ni kita panggil sebagai carbon fixation. Okay, and then phase 2 here we call as reduction. Okay, and then the last stage is a regeneration of carbon dioxide acceptor. So carbon dioxide acceptor in this case is ribulose bisphosphate or RUBP. Okay, so kita akan go through one by one. So firstly, we look at the first phase first, okay, which are carbon fixation. Okay, so what happened during this phase? Okay, for step 1, okay, so kita akan nampak dekat sini ada carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide molecule will enter the Kelvin cycle one at a time. So means that the total of carbon dioxide that will be used in this cycle is 3 carbon dioxide to produce 1 molecule of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate as an output. Okay, tetapi apa yang berlaku kepada this carbon dioxide, dia akan enter Kelvin cycle one at a time. Maksudnya dia akan enter one by one. Okay, and then what happened to the carbon dioxide? It will attach to 5 carbon sugar. So 5 carbon sugar in this case is ribulose bisphosphate or RUBP. Okay, so kalau nampak dekat sini, so this is ribulose bisphosphate that consists of 5 carbon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it will accept, okay, the carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide will attach to the ribulose bisphosphate. Okay, and then this process is catalyzed by enzyme that we call as RUBP carboxylase oxygenase. Okay, ataupun dia punya short name dia kita panggil sebagai Rubisco. Okay, so what happened? It will produce 6 carbon intermediate which is unstable. So where does the 6 carbon intermediate? Yang ni lah 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this is for step 1. Okay, and then what happened to this 6 carbon, okay, intermediate? So this 6 carbon intermediate is unstable. So apa yang akan berlaku? So the unstable 6 carbon will immediately split into half. So dia akan terpecah kepada 2. So dia akan hasilkan 2 molecule of 3-phosphoglycerate. So this is 3-phosphoglycerate. So kalau awak tengok dekat sini, okay, kenapa di depan ni dia ada 6? Kenapa mesti kena ada 6 molecule of 3-phosphoglycerate? Okay, so contohnya kalau saya highlightkan dekat sini, okay, so what happened to the carbon dioxide when it will attach to the ribulose bisphosphate yang ada 5 carbon, okay. Okay, so let's say this is ribulose bisphosphate. So bila ada carbon dioxide, okay, attached to this molecule, so what happen? It will produce 6 carbon intermediate like this. Okay, so contohnya dia ada 6 carbon. So this carbon, okay, so this molecule is unstable. So what happen to this 6 carbon intermediate? It will split, okay, into half. So dia akan jadi 2. Macam ni contohnya. Okay, so tadi kita ada 3 carbon dioxide, okay, by which each of the carbon dioxide will enter one by one. So let's say bila satu molecule of 6 carbon intermediate ni split into half, so dia akan jadi 2. So that's why kalau ada 3 carbon dioxide, so awak mesti kena darabkan dengan 3. So that's why dia akan jadi macam ni lah. Okay. So bila kita kira balik, okay, dia akan ada 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's why kalau awak tengok based on this diagram yang tadi, okay, so it will produce 6 molecule of 3-phosphoglycerate. So awak mesti kena ingat lah, okay, 6 di depan sini, okay. Okay, and then what happened to the 3-phosphoglycerate here? Okay, so each molecule of 3-phosphoglycerate will receive additional phosphate group from ATP. So remember, where does ATP comes from? It comes from the process of light-dependent reaction. Okay, so apa yang berlaku? ATP ni, okay, dia akan transfer its phosphate group to the 3-phosphoglycerate. Okay, so means that sebenarnya 3-phosphoglycerate ni dia dah berlaku phosphorylation because of what? It will receive additional phosphate from ATP. So it will form 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate like this. So akan ada satu lagi phosphate yang akan attach pada 3-phosphoglycerate. So this 3-phosphoglycerate will be convert to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Okay, so kenapa ada 6 dekat sini? 6 ATP because it has 6 molecule of 3-phosphoglycerate. So from 6 ATP, once it transfer its phosphate towards the 3-phosphoglycerate, so it will convert to become ADP. Okay. So next, okay, next phase reduction. Okay, so kita tengok dekat sini tadi dah terhasil 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. So what happened to the 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate? So a pair of electron donate from NADPH here. So means that NADPH will donate or transfer its electron, okay, to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. So that's why 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate will be reduced. Okay, and also 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate will lose the phosphate group. So that's why awak akan nampak ada 6 phosphate group yang keluar daripada 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Okay, so it will produce glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate or G3P. Okay, so ni adalah phase 2 yang kita panggil sebagai reduction. So what happened to the 3-phosphoglycerate here? Okay, tadi, okay, sorry, what happened to the 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate? Actually, it will reduce. Okay, it will reduce by NADPH. So that's why NADPH ni dia akan bertindak sebagai reducing agent in this phase. Okay, so kenapa 6 NADPH? Sebab ada 6 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. And the 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate also will lose its phosphate group. So dia dah hilang satu phosphate group. So that's why dekat sini cuma ada satu saja phosphate group yang tinggal. So this molecule we call as glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Okay, and then for every 3 molecule of carbon dioxide, 6 molecule of G3P will be formed. Yang inilah yang saya katakan tadi. Okay, so ada 6 molecule of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, but from these 6 G3P, only 1 G3P will be exit. Okay, the cycle to be used by plant cell to produce sugar. Maksudnya akan ada satu sahaja G3P, okay, yang akan dikeluarkan sebagai output. Okay, yang mana nanti dia akan digunakan, okay, by the plant cell to produce sugar. So sugar in this case contohnya dia akan hasilkan glukos ataupun ada organic compound. So maksudnya baki lagi 5 G3P, apa yang akan berlaku? So the other 5 must be recycled to regenerate 3 molecule of RUBP. So daripada 6 glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, 1 glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate akan dikeluarkan sebagai output. So yang akan remain dalam cycle adalah 5 molecule of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Okay. So the last step is a regeneration of RUBP. Okay. So in a complex series of reactions, so the carbon letter of 5 molecule of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate are rearranged into 3 molecules of RUBP. Okay, so maksudnya dekat sini, di sini kita tengok based on bilangan carbon. So kita ada 5 molecule glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is a molecule that has 3 carbon. So kalau kita kira jumlah bilangan karbon yang ada pada molekul ni, so 5 darab dengan 3, so dia akan ada 15 karbon. Okay, so kita nak regenerate semula molekul yang ada 5 karbon, which is ribulose bisphosphate. So daripada 15 karbon, ada berapa molekul yang 5 karbon yang kita boleh hasilkan? So 15 awak bahagikan dengan 5, so kita dapat 3. So sebab tu dekat sini dia tulis 3. Okay, ribulose bisphosphate. Okay, and then this process, okay, it will require 3 ATP. So formed in the light reaction. So this ATP also will be produced in light reaction or light dependent reaction, okay, to complete the cycle. So means that ribulose bisphosphate will be regenerate again. So kalau nampak perkataan carbon dioxide acceptor, okay, so carbon dioxide acceptor in this case adalah ribulose bisphosphate lah. Okay. Okay, so this is the overall process of the Kelvin cycle. So you have to take note lah. So maksudnya as a conclusion, so what you have to take note, okay. So for this process, dia ada 3 phase. Phase 1, carbon fixation. Phase 2, reduction. And then phase 3, regeneration of carbon dioxide acceptor or ribulose bisphosphate. And then to produce 1 molecule of G3P as an output, so it needs 3 carbon dioxide, by which this carbon dioxide will enter the cycle 1 by 1. And then from this process, you have to take note how many ATP will be used. Okay, so awak kena kira lah. So ATP that will be used to produce 1 G3P as an output. So it needs, okay, dekat phase 1 carbon fixation. So dia dah guna 6. Satu lagi adalah pada phase 3, 3. So jumlah keseluruhan ATP yang digunakan adalah 9 ATP. Okay, Y4 NADPH. Okay, so dia akan digunakan, okay, dalam phase 2 reduction. Okay, so ada berapa NADPH yang akan digunakan adalah here lah, 6 NADPH. Okay. Alright. Okay, so what happened to the NADP plus NADP? Okay, that formed in the Kelvin cycle. So it will return to the thylakoid to regenerate NADPH and ATP in the light reaction. So maksudnya, okay, selepas sahaja dah berlakunya Kelvin cycle, okay, so NADPH tadi dia dah oxidize to become NAD+, okay, and then ATP bila dia transfer phosphate group tadi, so dah convert jadi ADP kan. So what happened to NADP plus and also ADP, it will return to the thylakoid for the process of light dependent reaction untuk regenerate semula NADPH dan juga ATP. Okay, so this is the summary, okay, for light independent reaction. So for every 3 carbon dioxide fixed into the Kelvin cycle, ni macam yang kita dah discuss tadi. So 6 molecule of G3P is formed, tetapi daripada 6 molecule of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, okay, only 1 G3P molecule will exit the Kelvin cycle as an output. So lagi 5 will remain, okay, in the cycle to produce 3 molecules of ribulose bisphosphate. And then the 1 glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate molecule that exit the Kelvin cycle can remain in the stroma to be converted to starch. Okay, and then alternatively, the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate molecule can be exported from the chloroplast to cytosol where it is converted to sucrose. Okay, so remember, dekat sini dia tulis short form. Tapi awak tak boleh tulis short form lah. Awak mesti kena tahu nama panjang dia. So G3P tu maksudnya adalah glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Okay, one more thing. Okay, let's say if the question asks you, okay, to compare. Contohnya kalau awak tengok dekat sini, to produce 1 G3P as output. So ingat, G3P ni dia adalah molekul yang ada 3 carbon. So, dia memerlukan require 3 carbon dioxide, 9 ATP and also 6 NADPH. So let's say if the question asks you, how many carbon dioxide, ATP and NADPH will be required to synthesize 1 glucose as output. So glucose ni adalah molekul yang ada 6 carbon. So what happen? Awak kena darabkan dengan 2 lah. So means that the cycle will be repeated twice. Sebab G3P ni molekul yang ada 3 carbon. So kalau nak hasilkan glucose yang mana dia ada 6 carbon, so dia akan berlaku 2 kali. So maksudnya awak mesti kena darabkan dengan 2. So 6 carbon dioxide, 18 ATP, 12 NADPH. Okay? Okay, so that's all for light independent reaction or Kelvin cycle. Okay, so I hope all of you will be understand about this process. So apa-apa masalah boleh tanya saya. Okay, thank you.